So Boro turned out to have a far, far more busy deadline day than we expected, but I think we've got to say, all things considered, it probably couldn't have gone much better. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and a little deadline day review video here on the channel where we're going to just take a little look at each individual thing that happened on deadline day yesterday for Boro. I mean, I'd love to go into it all in detail, but quite honestly, so much ended up happening. We'd be here all day. It was a lot busier than what we thought. There were more incomings and outgoings than we thought. There was even an outgoing today on the 2nd of September that got done just about in time. So we'll start with McCabe, because what I will say, we did already make a video yesterday on David Strzelec's signing, so if you want to know my thoughts on that, go and check out the last video on the YouTube channel. We also spoke about the likes of Marcus Forss and Neto Borges leaving the club in that video too. So we will sort of pick up from where we left off yesterday, and the first bit of news after the Strzelec deal was that McCabe has left and joined Plymouth on loan. Now, I think all things considered, this is a good move for McCabe. For a long time now, he's been sort of sat in and around Boro's squad, but has never actually been given the chance to go out and play first-team football, and the opportunity to get a real run and break into Boro's team hasn't really came up for him. He's had appearances in cup games here and there. We speculated, depending on what happened with Hackney, maybe he would have an opportunity this season, and he did look good in pre-season at times. I thought, at Rangers especially, I remember him looking really, really good. But I think now that Hackney is still here, and we'll get to that, when you got Hackney and Morris and Kante coming in and Alan Browne who's came in, I think Rob Edwards said in a interview he did today, actually, wrapping up the window, they couldn't promise McCabe game time. He deserves game time. He needs game time. This is his first step into senior men's football. So fingers crossed he'll go there and he'll do extremely well. With Plymouth, I think on paper it looks like a great place for him to go. I mean, Tom Cleverley is a good manager. I think he fits what they want to do quite well. My only concern is they've started pretty bad, Plymouth, and Tom Cleverley might come under pressure soon enough if they don't turn things around there. I think they're expected to be one of the leading promotion chasers in League One. They're actually at the wrong end of the table right now. My only concern is that if it becomes a bit of a losing culture there, they change manager, the new guy maybe wants to change the system and style, it might not fit McCabe. He might then not really get much game time. So I feel like there is potential for things to go wrong at Plymouth, not for Law individually, but just as where they are as a club. That might affect him and his loan. So I really hope that Tom Cleverley gets them playing in a good way, gets them turned around, and McCabe can play an instrumental part in that. But yeah, it's a good move for him, a good loan deal, and fingers crossed he does really well there. The next thing we had was what would you call it? What you have at the front of a hotel? A revolving door of goalkeepers, because out of absolutely nowhere, Boro saw one keeper get released and one come through the door, and it wasn't the one I was expecting. Now, for all intents and purposes, and this is what I was told, and I still think this was the case, Tom Glover was always at risk of leaving, but we wanted Seny Dieng to go as well, and there were deals explored with Seny, with QPR apparently, and potential moves abroad that never materialised for Dieng for whatever reason. He is a player we were actively looking to move on, so I didn't expect Glover to be the one who left the club, although, like Dieng, I wasn't exactly comfortable with him being a backup keeper anyway, and I would have been open to them both going, in fairness, but I think it just would have been too much of an overhaul to get rid of two goalkeepers on deadline day and then bring in two goalkeepers. So Glover, I thought, would have just stuck around for a bit, but I have always thought with the World Cup coming up, he would definitely want playing time if he wants to get into Australia's team. So I always wondered why he hadn't left before now, or at least went out on loan to seek game time. So this now makes a lot of sense, and it's not that he's just been, released on a free. I think he still had a year left on his contract, so the club have literally just cut his contract short early, from what I think. So Yeah, that's a brutal, bold move from Boro, and yeah, I wish Glover all the best in terms of where he goes next, and I really hope wherever he goes, he can get game time and can find his way back into the Australia national team. So that was a sort of brutal release that we didn't see coming, and as instantly and as quickly as he was shown the exit door, another goalkeeper came in, and it was experienced goalkeeper John McLaughlin, the 37-year-old, has come in to be back up to Sol and Seni. Sounds like he's the third choice, actually, behind Seni Dieng as well. But he's an extremely experienced goalkeeper. He's played a lot of football pretty much everywhere in England, in Scotland. I think he was at Swansea of late. Didn't play much for them. He's played quite a bit for Rangers. I think he may have even played in Europe for them. And did have a decent stint at Sunderland, maybe when they were in League One, I want to say. So, yeah, he's the exact sort of goalkeeper you'd expect to come in as a third choice. You know, I was told we would be looking for one of them sort of more experienced, older third choice goalkeepers, a bit like when we got Jamie Jones a couple of seasons ago. So, yeah, you know, there's not much else to say around this one. I guess one of the most unexciting signings a club can make is a third choice goalkeeper who's nearly 40. But hey, you know, if he's more reliable than Tom Glover, I guess it's an upgrade in that position, and we take it for what it is. And John McLaughlin comes in, and if needed, I hope he does a job for us. And then the next bit of business was one that I heard murmurings of, but I wasn't quite certain it would happen because I thought it was too good to be true. But then it was announced, and that was the loan signing of Alan Browne from Sunderland. Now, I am extremely happy with this signing. I've got to be honest. He was a midfielder I would have actually liked at Boro 12 months ago, and is the perfect backup competition for Hayden Hackney and Aidan Morris. Because let's be honest, neither of them are ever going to not start a game unless they're injured or not fit. So the drop-off behind them is huge, and I think that's naturally, I think just because of how good they are, there's always going to be a drop-off behind Hayden and Aidan, but Alan Browne is such a solid, good, all-round championship midfielder who I think is one of the best backup midfielders you could have probably got your hands on. You know, you look at his recent stint, you know, he spent 10 years at Preston. In his last few seasons there, his last 3 or 4 seasons, he was consistently playing 40 games for them. He didn't maybe get as much game time at Sunderland last season, but he played when needed. He was good when he was needed. He played in a variety of positions for Sunderland last season. And at 30, I think is just that perfect age to bring a good mix of still being very good in the Championship, but also that little bit of experience that I think you just need to add in your ranks. And I'm delighted with this. He can do a bit of everything. He's a good defensive midfielder. He's not bad going forward either. I've heard he's played as an 8, as a 6, even you know, slightly to the left-hand side. I just think this is an amazing signing to have in your squad, and I'm absolutely over the moon that Boro got this one done. It was a nice deadline day bonus, I would say, and it is certainly an upgrade on what we lost in Boro's midfield, which we'll get onto in a second. So yeah, Alan Browne coming in, one of the best, most solid all-round backup midfielders you could get, and a little tiny added little extra addition that I think could make a ton of difference. So absolutely over the moon with this signing. I think it's going to be one of the most underappreciated and maybe under the radar signings that any club made on deadline day in the Championship. And then we did get today, actually, and there were murmurs of this yesterday, I think, of the fringe players. Balaser was the one we thought would leave. I was chatting to someone in the know last night, and it seemed like around 9 o'clock, you know, the British, well, the English deadline shut at 7. The Scottish one remained open till 11, I think. And as were a couple of other European deadlines. And of the fringe players, you looked at Dieng, you looked at Gilbert, you looked at maybe Hamilton. Balaser was the only one who seemed likely to still maybe have a move, although it even seemed like it was probably unlikely when it got late last night. But this morning, it was revealed that a deal was struck, and Dan Balaser has left on loan to Hibernian in the Scottish Premiership. Now, again, this is a move that makes sense for all parties. I do think in the right system, in the right team, Dan Balaser can still be an incredibly effective midfielder. Unfortunately, it just never quite worked at Boro. He never quite fit the system, and unfortunately, he just never could get in the team. And again, when you look at Boro's midfield options now, Balaser was even further down the order than he already was. He wasn't getting minutes at the time, so it made perfect sense for Boro to try and find him a move. And a bit like with Force, he's in the final year of his contract now, so although it's dressed up as a loan deal, I think this time next year he will become a free agent and maybe re-sign for Hibs, or maybe he'll just find another club. But this is, I think, like Force, the end of Dan Balaser's Boro career. So again, we wish him all the best. He's a great character, but unfortunately he just never quite fit into what Boro needed to be, and I'm sure he'll go on. And if he plays in the right sort of system in Scotland with Hibernian, I think he'll be a huge success there. But finally, we will finish on the biggest piece of news, of course, and that was that we still have Hayden Hackney at the club. And that, for me, is the most important bit of business we have done. Regardless of all the amazing incomings we've made, all 11 of them, all the outgoings, the money we got for Azaz and Rav Vandenberg, I think this is the best bit of business Boro have done all window, is keeping hold of Hayden Hackney. If you'd have asked me a month ago, I would have thought there is no chance in hell he was still going to be here. You know, so many clubs have been linked with him, endless clubs from England, from Europe. I expected a Premier League club to come in at the last minute and take him. Honestly, I really did. Obviously, Ipswich had him earlier in the window, but he didn't want to go there. And a bid just never came in. And that's the story of the window, I guess. No Premier League club has gone for Hayden Hackney in the end. And that's just fortunate for us, I guess. You know, I still think if one had come in, Hackney would have probably moved on. But Wolves never explored that. They were going after Josh Brownhill, which I don't think happened in the end. West Ham, despite the links, never put a concrete bid in. Brighton were mentioned. United have been mentioned. Tottenham have been linked in the past as being interested. But none of them emerged. None of them came in. You know, even clubs from abroad. I think Stuttgart were linked in January. Porto had bids rejected in January. Nothing came in. And I heard last night, after the window had shut, that Boro didn't get a single bid. Not even a single remote bit of interest in Hackney yesterday. It was complete radio silence. And we've got to just be so grateful that he's still here, because he could honestly make the difference between Boro being a chaser in the playoff race to maybe being a genuine playoff contender now. And we have a Premier League player at the heart of our midfield, alongside probably another one in Aidan Morris, and we've kept together the best midfield in the Championship, I think. So it is priceless how important it is that we've kept Hayden Hackney, and I think he just deserves immense praise for being so professional, so respectful towards his hometown club. He's been amazing. You know, in a window where we've seen so many players kick up a fuss and really sort of show their unprofessionalism towards the club that's paying their wages, Hackney has been incredibly fair and respectful to Boro, and he's not at any point pushed to move on. I think any of the noise that's came through have came from his agent. So fair play to him. You know, he's not got the move he would have probably liked, but he's still here. And as we've seen in the opening few games, he will still give his all for Boro and hopefully help us challenge for promotion this season. And again, I can't stress how important it is that he is still here. The best piece of business in the transfer window, without a doubt. So yeah, in the end, I mean, there's been a lot said on social media about rating Boro's window. I can't think of many ways it could have been better. I'm going to be honest. I honestly can't think of any ways it could have been better. There should be a graphic on screen now listing all of the incomings and outgoings that we've made. I think, considering that we've brought in 11 players and we've overhauled the squad to such a degree, I think the club have done an amazing job, because we've not spent that much money. Our net spend, I think, is maybe £2 or £3 million. So to put that much money into this many fantastic players, you know, a real mix of youth, of experience, you know, really good loan deals in there as well. You look at the players who we've let go, I think that a lot of them moves made perfect sense. And then the money we got for Rav and Finn, you know, two huge assets who didn't want to be here anymore. I think for Boro to have made the money that they have and fill up the squad, the recruitment team have done an outstanding job, and I had genuine reasons to be sort of concerned and skeptical of our recruitment team after January. But I'll openly admit they've done a fantastic job this summer, and they've gave us the best possible chance to compete this season. So I can't think of many ways that this window could have been better. Honestly, I can't. So credit to the club. I think they've done as good of a job as we could have hoped this window. We've kept our most important players. We've got rid of the ones we probably could afford to, and I think we've reinvested really well and stocked out a lot of the areas across the pitch. So, yeah, what does that mean for where Boro will be? I'm not going to commit to saying that just yet. We'll see where we are after 10 games or so, and we'll see how the new signings bed in. But I think, without committing to anything specific, I think it's safe to say it's just gave us a chance. It gave us a really good chance, and at one stage in this window, we really, really were looking at it, and we were worried by the lack of signings and how the squad looked, and the transition from Carrick to Edwards and all them other bits and pieces. So I think to come out of it in the shape we're in, it's really, really good. It really, really is. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, your sort of review of the transfer window and deadline day as a whole. And as always, if you've enjoyed the video, like the video, subscribe for more, and hit the bell so you never miss when a video drops. Comment below with your thoughts. And as I say, there is still more to come. There will be a podcast dropping tomorrow. Me and Chris are going to sit down tonight, actually, and have a little review of Boro's start to the season, as well as predicting the next block of games between the international breaks. And there'll be another podcast dropping this weekend where we'll be joined by Craig John from the Gazette, where we will discuss a lot around Boro's transfers and hopefully get a lot of interesting insight in terms of what's happened at Boro this summer as well. So look forward to all that good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.